This guy right here, sitting with the Lucid. I don't know if it drives itself, but this guy looks like he's just going grocery shopping or some shit, and he's letting the car handle it. That's an air. Oh shit, fucking stupid ass Prius. Don't cross the solid line, asshole. Dummy. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, this is the lady with the CT6. I see her regularly. She's from my Cadillac dealer, Paul Conti. That's a little lady with a really big car. 2 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRTs and a Mercedes EQS. So this guy just parked here. He went into the pizzeria for a minute. I can't wait till my Cadillac gets here. Okay, so I'm going to make a very, very, very short update as far as the stock market goes. So as you can see right now, the Dow is 33,535, right? So if you were to look at the stock market over the last 5 years, the Dow reached basically a high somewhere around 36,000. It never actually made it to 37,000. But right now we're at 33.5, and it appears to me that we're trending towards that 37 that we didn't make the last time. Now, because the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates, this is growth that I actually believe in, because now it's not growth based on cheap money. See, a large amount of the Dow before was based on cheap money. A lot of the valuations of these stocks were overly inflated, and that's mostly because there was so much cheap money going into them. There was so much borrowed money. There was people borrowing on margin. But now that interest rates are so high, borrowing on margin is almost unheard of, and very few people are even consider doing it. Borrowing on margin is also what pushed cryptocurrency up. There were a lot of companies that were over-leveraged, and they were borrowing on margin in order to pay for crypto. Now that the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates, all that fake growth has disappeared, and Bitcoin right now is stuck below 30,000 because they can't get any solid ground. Even when you have these small banks that gambled on cryptocurrency collapsing, the reality is there's really no growth in these cryptocurrencies. And the reason why I talk about Bitcoin so much is because Bitcoin holds more than 40% of the value of all cryptocurrencies. So what do they say about Iowa? There goes Bitcoin, there goes the world or some shit. But anyway, the bottom line is, if you look at my personal index, which is ManGoat, which is Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Google, oil stocks, AMD or Amazon, and then Tesla, if you look at those, all of them are nearing their all-time highs. So this is the all-time high for Microsoft. These things made their all-time highs back in like 2021. So right now, this is Microsoft. So my entire Microsoft's shares, all of them are up. Then if you look at Apple right there, you're looking at Apple. Basically, Apple's at its all-time highs. If you look right there, I can drop it down to 2 years. Apple's basically at its all-time highs, and it's going to keep on going. And let's go back to the 10-year. Let's go back to the all. Okay, then you have Nvidia. Nvidia is basically nearing its all-time highs again. Now, Nvidia suffered a very steep drop over the past 5 years, but that's because, and I continue to blame the Russian-Ukraine conflict on this, because if you remember, when I was making videos about oil stocks shot up real quick because of Russia versus Ukraine. And that was, what was it? That was a little over a year ago. And oil went negative in 2020, which was obvious because there were people who weren't going to work. There were people who weren't using their cars as much. People weren't traveling because we were locked down all around the world. You couldn't travel. Airplanes and cruise ships, nobody was going anywhere. But all of that's basically been reversed because now travel is opening back up. It's like I'm looking right now for flights to Bali, Indonesia, and I'm also still searching for a good flight to what is it, Papiat Bora Bora, because you got to go. You got to go to. The problem with going to Bora Bora is that you got to take Air Tahiti, and you got to basically go to this place called Papiat first, and then after that, you have to take a smaller plane to Bora Bora. So it's like one of those really small transfer island planes, right? And it's a difficult, how should I say, it's a tedious route, but one way or another, I'm going to get it done. But it's actually easier to go to Indonesia and go to Bali simply because you're only taking like one airline. You could take Asiana, you could take Singapore, or you could take just basically one airline. You go straight to Bali or whatever. But I haven't decided which trip I'm going to go on first, but I'm basically going to go on 3 to 4 more trips. And right now, airfare is a bit high and availability is a bit low. So I'm still looking at that. But when it comes to these chips, I made a video not long ago about betting on chips. Nvidia, Taiwan Semiconductors, AMD, Intel. Intel and Micron are down right now, but Intel still continues to pay its dividend, and Intel is going to eventually come back. Micron is also a good buy, but Nvidia has been doing real well, especially by me, because I bought Nvidia long before they did the stock split. And I made videos telling you to buy Nvidia before the stock split. Now, Google and Amazon, you may remember I was telling people to buy Google and Amazon before the stock split. Now, I could never have imagined that Russia and Ukraine were going to go to war in that amount of time. And once they did, a lot of the pullout of the market sent the shares of Amazon and Google plummeting, just like Nvidia and just like Microsoft. So basically everybody suffered from the loss of the Russian buyer's market, because you got to remember, there's like 145 million people in Russia. And also America tried to start detaching itself and cutting back from China. So by trying to cut the Russians and the Chinese out, you're cutting out a large percent of the market, right? That caused a tremendous dip in Google and in Amazon, right? So as you can see. Now, what I can say is that, as you can see right here, Amazon is reversing those losses. Google is reversing those losses. So the beautiful thing is I bought Amazon and Google long before the split. So I only saw myself losing what would have been profit. But now all that profit's coming back. So my portfolios are all up. So I'm feeling good about that. So Google and Amazon, I can't really say that those are strong buys now. See, I told you. Well, here's the thing. What I will say is if you didn't buy Google and Amazon before they both split, because if you remember, they both split within like 3 months of each other. If you didn't buy them before the split, if you were to buy them now, you're still getting them for less than the price that they were before they did the split last year. So that's worth considering. You'd still be getting in. You're not. I mean, it would have been better if you had bought them under $100. But some people may or may not have had that much money or whatever. Tesla is the wild card right here. You see, here's the problem. Tesla is essentially a meme stock. It's a meme stock because that guy Elon Musk is fucking nuts. He bets on cryptocurrency, and he did the bet on Bitcoin, and that basically sent the stock plunging. And he got his Bitcoin around 55,000, which, needless to say, he never recouped all the money on that. Even no matter what you hear, he bought in around 55,000. If you also remember, El Salvador bought in around 55,000, and then those idiots bought the dip at 50. So they never recouped that money because the shit is down to 27 right now. It's less than 27. But Tesla is kind of funny because a lot of the trading in Tesla is due to options trading. Tesla has these very wild swings. And when I say wild swings, you look at them over the last 2 years, Tesla can be up immediately and suddenly, and then Tesla can dip way down immediately and suddenly. And that's mostly because of the options trading for Tesla. Tesla doesn't pay dividends, so people who are buying Tesla, they're just buying it, holding it till it goes up, and then they're shorting it. Now, people who buy like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, people buy those. Many people, I would say, hold on to those stocks because of the dividends. So those are like strong holds. Because Tesla doesn't pay a dividend, Tesla is going to always be on a roller coaster. Because I remember back before Tesla hit $300 for the first time, I was asking people, hey, what do you think I should do with my Tesla shares? Should I wait and sell, or should I sell now? And they were like, yeah, you should sell now. That would have been a horrible mistake to sell then, because as you remember, Tesla went past $1,000 a share, and then they did their first stock split, but then they did another stock split, and then they did another one. So, it's like Tesla is really a meme stock at this point. And the thing about it is, when those new cars that they have do come out, oh yeah, their value is going to shoot up. The Model 3 and the Model Y are getting redesigned. The Cybertruck is still coming out. The Roadster, I think, is irrelevant. But where Tesla really does have the market cornered is they claim that they're going to make a newer model that's smaller than the Model 3. You could call it a Model 2 for now until they actually officially tell you what it's going to be called. But Tesla has redesigned their production facilities in a way where now they can crank out more cars faster. And they also said it's going to be more cars faster and it's going to be less expensive. So the thing about it is, for the shares that I didn't hold when I bought my second house, I'm going to hold on to those shares of Tesla, and I'm just going to hold and watch. But the reality is, I know Tesla isn't just a car manufacturer. They're an energy storage company that also makes cars. So that's just what it is. Now, as far as the rest of these stocks, GM, Ford, Stellantis, actually GM is down from $60 a share, which it was before the Russians and Ukrainians started fighting. Ford is doing decently. Stellantis is doing very good. In fact, my highest dividend payment of the year comes from Stellantis because I own so many shares in Stellantis. I think I may have shared some of that in the community chat. But Ford pays their dividend. Stellantis pays a dividend. And as you can see right here, GM pays a 1.1%. But you can also see that GM's considerably down despite the fact they do pay a dividend. Now, will they come back up? Well, right now, regardless what you hear them say on the news, because they're all liars and most of them don't even know what they're talking about, not only are we in recession, but we're in what's called stagflation. And stagflation is basically when you have a recession, you have underemployment, you have a level of unemployment, and most of it's due to poor government policies. That's the key of stagflation. See, a regular recession is going to happen anyway because you're always going to have rises, you're always going to have dips in the economy. But stagflation usually is caused by poor government steps that they took thinking that they were making things better, and meanwhile they fucked everything up even more. And under the Joe Biden economy, let's just think about what you see happening. Illegals are pouring in. The problem is, it's the government who decides who's illegal and who's not. If I was in office, believe me, I'd be turning those buses around at the border. As these people pour in here, these people cost you more in taxes because your local taxes rise. So that only hurts your quality of life. But here's the problem. The reason why they're letting these people in is to replace you, because chances are you're not having enough children. And only more recently do you start hearing them talking about that. According to the experts, you have to have about 2.2 children, which is basically you have to have about 3 children, because there's no such thing as a fraction of a child. You have to have about 3 children in order to keep this country's population stable. Well, if you look at what's happening, you see the women are aborting children left and right. You see that the men have decided that they're sick and tired of these women. They don't want to date them. They don't want to deal with them. They would rather get their passports, go overseas, and get a nice foreign woman who's trained and indoctrinated to be a wife. They don't want to deal with these strags here anymore. So, long story short, population is declining in America. Population growth is declining. Same thing is happening in Japan. Same thing's happening in South Korea. Same thing's happening across Europe. All you got to do, because I can't even make this shit up. All you got to do is go on Google search term, talk about just type population decline, and then type the country, Europe, anywhere you want to. Population decline, America, population decline, Japan, China, South Korea. See, what they don't seem to understand is feminism is a disease. And what they're ultimately doing is they're giving themselves enough rope to hang themselves. And as that happens and your population declines, now you have fewer and fewer people who are able to do these jobs, the professional jobs. On top of that, you have a decline in your quality of life. And on top of that, you have a rise in taxes because government spending doesn't stop. The welfare state continues to grow. Women outvote men. Women vote for more welfare. So you've basically given yourselves enough rope to hang yourselves. And eventually you wake up one day and you're totally fucked. And that's just what it is. So, there's really nowhere to go. But I think the last thing I'll say, because I did promise this is going to be short, take a look at the cryptocurrencies. Because let me tell you something. They've been telling me since 2018, we're going to be a Bitcoin 100,000, Bitcoin 100,000 by 2019. Then I want you to notice every time they give you a prediction about how much cryptos are going to be worth, it's always a year away or 2 years away. All you got to do is put your money in now, but you just got to wait a year, wait 2 years. Bitcoin reached 68,000 during the most positive conditions that you could possibly have for crypto, and it still couldn't get to 100,000. You had global pandemic, you had global recession, you had global uncertainty, you had lockdown, people locked in their houses, people had nothing to spend their money on, people start gambling on cryptocurrencies. You had fewer crypto coins at that time. Bitcoin had the absolute best possible variables going for it, and the shit still couldn't hit 100,000. Think about that. Bitcoin had low interest rates, borrowing on margin. Michael Saylor, oh yes, well, if you go out and you buy some coins, they're only worth what the coins are worth. But if you buy crypto, and I really mean this, if you buy crypto will be worth so much more in the future. I mean, you think about it. If you get on a plane, you can't carry 100,000 US dollars, but you can carry billions in Bitcoin in your pocket. You know what? If you're in an alleyway and you need money, you can't just easily reach in your pocket for money because somebody could rob you. But if you have your cell phone and you pull your cell phone out because you need money, Bitcoin is the easy money. That fucking retard motherfucker. And it's sad because I never imagined that the government would allow a Ponzi scheme to run for this long when it's that obvious. In fact, that'll be the last thing I talk about because Europe is basically calling it out. They're like, nah, this shit needs to be regulated because after they felt the sting of themselves losing so much money. Yeah, there's a couple of people who get into a Ponzi scheme early. There's a couple of people who get rich. But even those rich Ponzi schemers who got in early, all their money's evaporated now. They've been turning their cars in because they've lost so much value. They were buying Mercedes G-Wagons for 100,000 over sticker. They were buying houses that they're giving up now. I haven't seen too many Bitcoin Lamborghinis. Have you? I haven't seen them. Everybody who I know who talks about dabbling in Bitcoin, they're still as poor as they were 3 or 4 years ago. Meanwhile, I've been taking my dividend repayments from these stocks that I buy dividends, and I opened up the Apple savings account, and I've been depositing my dividends on my iPhone into my Apple iOS savings account. And they're paying, 4.15% interest. because it's an online savings and they don't have the overhead of a bank. So, the proof is in the pudding. The proof's in the pudding. I don't even have XRP. Man, oh yeah. You got to get the XRP because the XRP is about to go up. It's about to go up. Yeah, they were saying that when it was like $1. And now it's down to, what is it, 46 cents. What's funny? There was a news story about XRP. They were like, okay, yeah, everything, the tables are set, and we're waiting for the government to give us a, what is it called, a ruling on XRP, right? That was 35 weeks ago. 35 weeks ago. If you look, like, that's one thing I like about how Apple does stocks, because they keep these news stories easy for you to read. And then they also tell you how old the news stories are. I think the one thing Apple, like, if you think about it, Apple, like, this is not really cutting off the point. Apple has a credit card. They've got the best smartphone in the world. They've got the best tablets in the world, an iPad. They've got the best smartwatches in the world with Apple Watch. They have a credit card now. They have deferred payments. They have basically leasing programs for these things. And then on top of that, they just started a savings account. I would say the one thing Apple should start now is a trading account. Why should I? By the way, anybody who follows me, they know that I trade with Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade, right? My TD Ameritrade is ending, just like the Scott trade before it that ended and gave me my TD Ameritrade. My TD Ameritrade is turning into a Charles Schwab account. So that means that both of my main trading accounts are going to be on Charles Schwab. Here's the thing. If Apple had its own trading account, do you realize how easy it would be for me to simply take money out of the Apple savings account that I have and put it into the Apple trading account? Apple needs its own trading account because they'd have a credit card, they'd have a savings account, and then they'd have a trading account where I could gamble on stocks and get my dividends. That would be perfect. It would be perfect because everything would be on my phone or my Apple Watch or whatever if they make a virtual reality headset or whatever. I want an Apple trading account. Like, I know they should have thought about it by now because, they always had a very good stocks app. So I would hope that they do something like that. I really would. But yeah, that's about it for me because, see, the thing about it is I could bash these crypto losers all day long. These Ethereums, what is this? This shit it couldn't even stay at 1,900. Wait, oh man, it's not even, I tell you, at this point, making fun of it, it's not even worth it anymore because the thing about it is by now, I've even seen the faithful losing faith. It's funny. They usually tend to have like one or two bull runs in the year. It never reaches the high that it was when it was like 60. It's never going back to 70,000. That's not happening. But they have these bull runs, and then for the rest of the year, you have to listen to crickets, and you have to listen to assholes like me making fun of you. At this point, I'm starting to think it's just not worth it. So this was the story. This was in seekingalpha.com. I like subscribing to some of the stock trading sites because they actually give you pretty decent overviews of what's happening in the market. It says UK lawmakers say crypto trading is like gambling. This was May 17th. Trading in unbacked crypto. Oh, shit. There's a paywall. Okay. Yeah, we're not doing that. So bottom line is you can read this elsewhere, but I'll just read the opening statement. It says trading in unbacked cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum should be regulated as gambling. Lawmakers on the UK Treasury Committee urged in a report published Wednesday. So the long and short of it is now there's enough outcry from all of these people who got into these cryptocurrencies because they got suckered into it by their dumbass kids. Their dumbass kids. Or they got suckered into it by some friend or some buddy at work. They didn't understand what they were doing. Their buddy, oh yeah, all you got to do is just put your money in and the line just goes up. There were some people who got suckered into these things by these commercials on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox. There are some people who got suckered in watching Sky News or whatever it was they were watching. But the reality is, eventually, after you lose enough money, you start knocking on people's doors and you start making phone calls. You're like, wait a minute, what happened to my money? See, me, I can honestly say, I've been trading stocks since I was about 18. And I opened up my original account with Scott Trade, which later became TD Ameritrade, which is now becoming Charles Schwab again, because Charles Schwab bought TD Ameritrade like a couple of years ago. I can honestly say that I have never been in a situation where I saw all the money that I had invested in a stock just disappear and evaporate. I've never been in a state where I'm like, oh man, what happened to my money? And I'm looking to call somebody. I've never, ever been there. This is the reason why Warren Buffett is rich. Warren Buffett bought mostly companies that pay dividends. So the money that he's put into these companies, first of all, he targets companies that make products that people want and not fad products. He targets companies that have long-term made products that people want or companies that provide services that aren't easy to replicate. Amazon, Walmart, companies like that, those are examples. Like Walmart may dip a little when we have recessions and people stop shopping as much. But Walmart always comes back because Walmart has a lot of stores. They are the major supplier of grocery items in some areas. And the reality is that's how Warren Buffett got rich. He goes after companies that supply or make products that people absolutely want. They pay dividends, and he's going after Occidental Petroleum, Apple, so forth and so. So yeah, he may lose money in a recession, but everybody loses money in a recession. So when you're up, he's way up. And when you're down, he's not so far down because he's still getting dividends. It's a pretty simple trading platform. It's pretty simple to understand. It's not really rocket science, you know. But that's the reality. So I thought by now the government would have done something. But see, I have the fucking type of government. This is the last thing I'll say. I have the type of government. These motherfuckers are horrible. They are reactionary. It's like I'm thinking about TikTok. I think it was Montana or Minnesota. No, I believe it's Montana. Montana. I could be wrong about the state, but it was one of the states with an M. They just banned TikTok as a state. Why did it take them this long to say, you know what, this is garbage, this is not good for our kids, the Chinese are spying on us, blah, 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 whatever excuse you got to make. Why the fuck is the U.S. Congress still sitting on their fucking asses and they haven't banned TikTok yet? Now, I want you to think, the Chinese, they say, yeah, we know this shit makes our kids stupid. Stupid. They know that it makes their kids stupid. So what did they do? What did the Chinese do? Chinese did a couple of things. You can look it up because I can't make this shit up. The Chinese, on Fridays and on the weekends, you know what they do? They turn off portions of the internet. Like, you know how you have video game servers and you can play with people overseas? And you know how your dumbass kids sit there and play Call of Duty and Battlefield all fucking day long, and that's all they do. Well, the Chinese said, fuck that. We're going to turn this shit off. They just said, fuck it. We're going to turn it off. Flip the switch. It turns off. The Chinese also banned effeminate males from television. Because you know what they said? They said, you know what? These effeminate males are making our boys not manly. They said, we want our boys to be manly so that they can join the war just in case there's ever a war against America. We want them to fight like men. We want them to have strong bones. We want them to be highly disciplined, and we want them to think and fight like men. You know what the Chinese did? They said, you know what? No more effeminate males. We're banning no more of television. Banned. Cut it off. You know what else they did? With TikTok. They're like, yeah, we know that this makes our kids stupid. So what we'll do is we'll let America have the stupid version. And we'll keep the version that we keep along with our CCTV television. What we'll do is we'll make it so that the only thing that comes on these TV channels is intelligence. There's no anti-China rhetoric whatsoever. So anything that says anti-Chinese government, anti-CCP, all that shit is banned. Cut it off. On top of that, anything that comes on TikTok that makes our kids stupid, no, we're cutting that shit off. That's it. So this is what's happening. And I've also seen this in other countries. I've seen this in Philippines. I've seen this in South Korea. There's certain things that they don't allow on their television. There's certain things they don't allow. In certain countries, you can't even buy some of these video games. In Germany, they banned violence. In some countries, I think it's Germany and Australia, I believe it is. Certain levels of violence, the whole video game gets banned. It's like certain levels of violence, certain movies get banned and blocked. Not here. Is it any wonder why you're sinking down the toilet while these other countries are fucking laughing? No, because they had the foresight. They were like, yo, wait a minute. This is going to hurt our people. We don't want our people being stupid. This is going to hurt our people. So no. What we're going to do is we're going to cut this shit off. That's it. And yeah, you get a couple of feminist groups and you get a couple of idiots lined up to protest. Let them protest when it's cold outside. It was fucking negative 18 degrees. All you got to do, if you're the official who cut this shit off, all you got to do is turn up the fire at your fireplace and you just roll over in bed. So yeah, well, let them freeze out there. Let them freeze to death. And that's it. And that's how you govern. And if you govern that way, I guarantee you, the future of your prosperity, they'll appreciate it because they'll be like, thank you so much for doing everything you could to make it so my parents weren't stupid. Thank you for doing everything you could to make it so my parents could get a job and that they were well-educated workers. Because with my parents being well-educated workers, now I can be a well-educated worker too. Thank you for making it so that my mama wasn't a side chick out there bouncing around on the carousel. Thank you for making it so my mom was smart. Thank you for making it so my dad was smart. Thank you for protecting the integrity of the citizenship and making it so my parents weren't stupid. So some of these kids out there will be able to say that. Others won't. And that's basically it. And I guess I'll just say this because today, speaking of, stupid parents, I almost don't want to say this because Kevin Samuels literally made a mockery of this and he has a whole button surrounded around it. But today, one of my parents who is retired, who's been retired for a few years and is now old and collecting Social Security, one of my parents is getting their PhD today. So I had to take off a day of work and I'm going to celebrate them getting their PhD. And that's just a fact. So it is what it is, I know I can hear that Kevin Samuels button, I'm a PhD, playing in the back of my mind right now, But, I'm just thankful that my parents grew up in a time where they had responsibilities and there were things required of them. Like they had responsibilities, there were things required of them. And they had a government that was devoid of social media. I'm just so thankful that I had highly intelligent parents and that I inherited enough of that where I could be a six-figure earner and not end up like what I see coming out of Generation Z and what I see in a lot of millennials around me who are later millennials. Like, these people, like I'm telling you, this summer, you're going to see problems you're going to see riots, you're going to see protests. It's going to look like George Floyd all over again. They're just waiting for an excuse. And when I say waiting for an excuse, crime is up. These people are robbing stores. These people going into the stores and just robbing. I mean, like just grabbing shit and running out. You never would have seen this back in the 80s. And you never would have even seen this in the 90s. And they're just doing this shit now. And everybody demands a living wage. Nobody wants to work. It's just incredible. And the only excuse that they kind of do have is that the cost of living has gone up so high. But these are the same people who were taking welfare checks from the government during COVID. They weren't worried about it then, so why are you worried about it now? See, what happened was the Federal Reserve raised these interest rates. And when they raised these interest rates, cheap money disappeared. Bitcoin and all them cryptocurrencies, them shits fell apart. The stock market fell apart. And now it's rebuilding itself on real money. But these people out here with these credit cards, they can't use them credit cards the way they were using them before. See, it used to be, yeah, I just, buy all this stuff with my credit card. I'll just take out a lease on a car and I'll buy a new car every 3 years. They can't do that shit no more. It used to be easy to do that. You can't do it no more. Because now you're paying damn near double the price. In some cases, triple the price. Not so easy to do that shit no more. Not so easy. Not so easy. And I look at these other countries where there ain't no credit cards, and these people are forced to work for everything they get. They ain't no deferred payments. There ain't no credit cards. There ain't no borrowing. If you traveled, you know some of the countries I'm talking about. The one in my mind right now is the Philippines. There's almost no credit cards there because they know that if they issued credit cards, they know those people would go deep into credit card debt overnight, buying regular shit. No credit cards. Now, America, oh yeah, we got credit cards up the ass. You got like, trillions of dollars worth of debt. Student loans up the ass. You got damn near $2 trillion in student loans. It's 1.8, I believe. But these other countries, they're like, nah, we can't do that because these people will borrow, and they'll never be able to pay it back because there is no job security in certain places. They know. So that's just what it is. Like this whole idea, this whole era of cheap money and shitty government, this whole thing needs to come to an end. But the beautiful thing is, it is going to come to an end, and it's going to happen quicker than you think.
To be continued.